So be it, Jedi.
What's going on, guys? Back in another video. Beginning your steps as a Hot Toys collector can be daunting. Sometimes you don't know what figures to buy, which ones are good, or even where to begin. So in this video, I'm going to give you a list of at least what I think are some of the best figures to buy for a first-time Hot Toys collector. Now, of course, I would never condone anyone to pre-order a figure if they're brand new to the hobby. It's sort of the same as you wouldn't go to a car dealership and buy a car without test driving it. I think you should at least own one figure, figure out what you're going to be getting into before you go diving into pre-orders. So starting off this list, you got the OG Stormtrooper. Now, there have been a plethora of different Stormtroopers. You've got ones from the original trilogy, you've got ones from Rogue One, you've got ones from the Mandalorian, and in a lot of ways, they're all different. But I think ultimately, a Stormtrooper is a Stormtrooper, and whichever one you could find at the best deal is going to be what's best for you. Next, we have the 501st Clone Trooper. Now, this comes in a standard Phase 2, and it comes with the deluxe that comes with the 332nd helmet and the Phase 1 helmet. A lot of collectors that are moving into Hot Toys collect Black Series, and a lot of Black Series collectors love Clone Troopers. I mean, in fact, I see a lot of channels that may just have one Hot Toys figure, and a lot of the time it's a Clone Trooper some way or another. 501st Clone Trooper is arguably the most iconic Clone Trooper design, and it's my personally favorite, so kind of being a little biased here. But this figure can be found regularly at retail or less. For a while it was kind of high, but now you can find it for $200, $220. And I think if you can find it around retail, you're getting a good deal. Sticking with the 501st, we have Captain Rex. Now, I'm personally talking about the Clone Wars version, not the recent one that just came out. Again, this figure was overly produced. It can be found dirt cheap. Captain Rex is arguably the most iconic and recognizable clone trooper, period. Comes with tons of accessories. You get a portrait that looks really good in my opinion. And Clone Wars fans, Clone Trooper fans, I think picking up Captain Rex for your first figure would be a good move. Sticking with Clone Wars vibes, we got Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars. Again, as I said earlier, all these figures can be found relatively cheap and under retail. People love Ahsoka. Ahsoka is arguably one of the most popular and recognizable Star Wars characters that it isn't in the films. This figure and her look, specifically from Season 7 of the Clone Wars, is very iconic at this point. I owned the figure for a period of time. I was very happy with it. You have to be careful because of the seamless arms. But if you know that going in, I think this is a great first figure and a great representation of the character. Then we have the Mandalorian, Din Djarin himself. Now, there have been 3 different versions of this character, so you sort of got to take your pick. You've got his early Season 1 look with his Durasteel armor. Personally, I think that one's the most visually interesting. Then you've got Beskar armor, and then they turned around and did a chromed out Beskar armor version. I'm not sure exactly the price on the latest release with the chromed out Beskar, but I know the first 2 can be found relatively cheap. Then we've got the GOAT himself, Anakin Skywalker, specifically the Clone Wars version. This was my first figure. Again, the Clone Wars is really beloved, and Anakin Skywalker is really beloved. So I don't think you could go wrong picking this up as your first figure. It's not bad by any means. There is another one that's currently on pre-order from the Ahsoka series, and I honestly like the former better than the latter. You get swap out armor components, you get a cape that really isn't canon, but it looks great on the figure. And the likeness, while dated, and certainly not to the standards of the artisan figures that have recently came out, doesn't look bad. Up next, we have Jango Fett. Jango Fett sort of is a tragedy in and of itself because much of his story is told outside of the films with video games, comics, books, etc. But you can't deny that Jango Fett is awesome, and if you're a fan of the prequels and Attack of the Clones, this is definitely an iconic character and look. And again, this figure can be found relatively cheap. Definitely not a bad choice. Then we're going with his son, Boba Fett. Now, Boba Fett is sort of an enigma. If you're an older Star Wars fan, you probably remember him from Empire Strikes Back or Holiday Special or whatever. But I wasn't old enough to sort of grow up with that. So for me, Boba Fett really isn't anything to call home about. But you can't deny that his appearance in the Boba Fett series and The Mandalorian looks pretty cool. Now you can find several different Boba Fett figures for really cheap. You can get the 2-pack for less than half of retail. I think the repainted armor looks really good. Again, really can't go wrong with which Boba Fett you go for. Next, we have Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian. Now, this is arguably one of the best Luke Skywalker figures they've done. It's really hard to gauge the price on the secondary market for this figure because in some instances it keeps its value and in others it doesn't. It honestly depends if you pick up the deluxe with Dark Trooper, but I think you can find this figure 250, 260, not relatively expensive. I've seen it even as low as like 220. It's not a bad choice at all, and the portrait is one of the best of Mark Hamill, even though it's kind of got an uncanny look. And wrapping up this list, we have Darth Maul from the Clone Wars. Again, I owned this figure at one point in time. It's not a bad figure, but you have to keep in mind that he does have single jointed elbows. The body does have a paint application, so you could display it robeless. Personally, I don't like the way the body looks. I think he looks very thin and gaunt. But you can't deny, again, as we said with the Clone Wars figures, that this look is iconic, especially with Season 7 of the Clone Wars. If you only want representation of Maul from the Clone Wars, this is the only one there is. But all in all, it's not a bad figure. And like I said, it's more source material specific. So if that's the Maul you're looking for, it's going to be the Maul to get. Alright guys, that pretty much wraps up this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. What was your first figure? Do you think this is a pretty good list? I think it's pretty diverse, and I've seen a lot of people, talking on social media. First figure, and it's a lot of time it's figures from this list if it's a Star Wars figure. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, see you in the next one.
I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to leave.